This cat is not used to having leaves fall. Oh, he's done. I was going to ask you, why is it that one leaf falls but not the one beside it? You know, when there's, like when the frost hit them this morning, and then the sun got on them, certain leaves fell, but not all of them, only certain ones. Now, was that because the frost pushed the cells apart, which made it drop off of the tree? Or what? Was it the ones that got the most frost fell? Or the ones that were the deadest, and it was the weight? But see, it had to do with the sun. And ice expands when it gets warm, right? It shrinks when it freezes and expands when it gets warm. So maybe if it got in between the leaf and the tree, leaf and the branch, and then it expanded, then it dropped it off. But now why didn't it get between all of them? Maybe only the ones that were mostly getting ready to fall, they had little gaps in between. And the moisture got down into the little tiny gaps. And then when it thawed and it expanded, it pushed the leaf off. But the ones that were on tightly didn't have that opening where the moisture could get in between. I don't know. Are you in the sun there? It's no fun to be in the sun, is it? Anyway, do you know where I could find out the answer to that? Now, how would you research that? Now, isn't that an interesting thought? If you were going to research that, you'd have to set up cameras and watch what happens to the various leaves. But you see, not all leaves are having the same experience. So you couldn't have a control group. Not unless you took one leaf and branch and put it in the freezer and then took it out. But you'd have to have an electron microscope so you could really see all the little bits. Well, maybe not electron microscope, but a very powerful microscope so you could see all the little bits. I'm sorry that you have to be in the sun. Anyway, and then you could see what you could control it, right? You can control the wind, because what if the wind is affecting the temperature, right? If you have little breezes at night and they're, because of the nature of the leaves and where they're placed, you have breezes that they come in between them, the warm air rising and the cold air falling, and the way it would fall between them, or because of one, like if they're all on the top level, say the top level is what freezes and falls off. So then, is everyone at the top level the same? Now, if you notice, the trees, it's usually the very tops that get bare first. Do we have a tree you could look at to see that? Right up there. See, the very top of my beautiful big tree up there. You could see some little branches sticking out. I don't know, maybe not. Maybe you're not even looking at it. Why aren't you looking at it? You see, and over there, I can see the tops of some, that yellowy branch, that yellowy tree down in there. See how you can see the little tops? So it's showing then that the leaves fall off of the very top first. Okay, so if they fall off the very top, then if it's to do with the frost, well, see, now people that don't even have frost, the trees lose their leaves. So that's not the only factor. But that might be the factor in, well, the morning after it's frozen, you get all these leaves falling. And so it's definitely a factor there, because you see it every time. You don't see it until the sun hits them. And once the sun warms them up, then, and they're still frozen, you hear them falling down. Now, on a morning where there has not been frost, but the sun is just starting to shine on them, I've never checked to see and waited to see if the leaves are falling when that happens. So if you were going to do an experiment, a scientific experiment that you can do it 3 times, I guess what you would have to do, perhaps, is count the dead leaves, the leaves that, put a sheet under the tree, And the night it freezes, you count the leaves that fall the next day. Or in the morning, say 1 hour after the sun is on it. Now, of course, it's going to have to be a sunny day. It's not going to be mildly sunny, and maybe the temperature will matter too. Just how cold it got, and when the sun was up, how warm is it? Is it only still below freezing, or is it just at freezing? Or is it still below freezing when the sun is up? And when do the leaves start falling? Do they start falling the moment that the sun warms them up a little bit? So what's the temperature difference? If it's like -5 at night, but then it's -1 with the sun on them, see, will they fall off? There are a lot of factors to control here, because every single day in the autumn is different. You don't have any two conditions that are the same, where you've got the exact same temperature at night, the exact amount of dew that fell on the leaves, which is why you've got frost, right? Like if it's a humid day, yesterday was a humid day, so even though it was cool, it was damp. So all that dampness, I'm going to see if I've used my time up here. What's the time there? No, 6 minutes. I can rattle on a little longer. Okay, so every day is different. So you have a different amount of humidity in the air here. Maybe in the desert it's different. Now, and the amount of moisture that's in the air from the humidity, when the temperature falls, the air cannot hold as much moisture. And so the moisture falls out. That's called the dew point. So the moisture falls out of the air and it lands on the trees. And then it freezes if you're having a frost night. So you have to deal with the amount of humidity the previous day, the dew point, and the temperature at the dew point, I guess, and then the temperature that it gets to at its coldest, and then the length of time that the frost is on there. I mean, because if it's only frosted for half an hour before the sun comes up, that might have a whole different effect than if it frosted for 8 hours the whole time the sun was gone. See how it's so many variables? How would you control for that? Now you might be able to attach a microscope and a camera microscope, if there is such a thing, to a tree and photo 2 leaves that look like they have the same conditions, that are the same distance from other leaves, and you might be able, but you still are not gonna know for sure. But you will see if there's moisture down in that expanded, and you will see it expanding when the sun hits it, which will make it fall off. See, now, if I had gone to university for a long enough time and I had a PhD, I could have a lab like my sister, and I could investigate these things. I had so many questions to investigate. But I don't have an electron microscope or whatever it is I would need. I just have questions. Questions, questions, questions. Okay, that's it.